Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C, the podcast for founders, entrepreneurs, dreamers, and leaders navigating the journey of growth. In each episode, we get into the setbacks, the rebuilds, the pivots, and the lessons learned along the way. These are honest conversations with leaders who face challenges head on and found success in business and in life. I'm your host, Sonia, and let's get started. My guest today is Wes Towers, founder of Uplift 360, a digital agency helping builders and trades get found, get trusted, and get chosen. For over 20 years, Wes has been in the trenches, building his business from scratch, learning through trial and error, and helping real-world businesses turn their websites and SEO into steady, qualified work. Wes believes in one thing above all else: real results you can see on the calendar and in the bank. No fluff, just practical strategy, human connection, and lessons learned the hard way. Hi, Wes. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Very well, Sonia. It's a nice sunny day here in Melbourne, so good to be alive.
Nice. It's a nice snowy day here in Toronto, but it's still good to
Ah,
be alive too.
yeah, absolutely. Good to connect on the other side of the planet. The podcasting is powerful for that.
Oh my gosh, it so is. Yeah. Well, let's get right to it, shall we?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, I want to start from the beginning. You didn't learn business or marketing in a classroom, which I love because I'm the same way. You learned it by doing it. What did those early bootstrap years teach you that no textbook ever could?
Oh, so much. I started business really naively. I had no idea how to run a business. I had a skill set which I'd done, do websites and SEO and all of that stuff. I was a trained graphic designer. So I was always behind the scenes doing the work, but running a business, I had no idea. I mean, the first few client meetings, I was just sweating, profusely sweating because I was just so nervous. I had no idea what to do. I'd only attended a couple of client meetings and just behind, didn't say anything. Was just there observing really when I was an employee. So no idea what to do really. So you kind of have to learn the hard way, and being thrown into the deep end, all of a sudden you need to make an income that's somewhat comparable to what you were getting as an employee. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the bootstrapping, because my line of business, I was realistically just selling my time effectively at that time. So, and I
Mm-hmm.
had lots of it because I didn't have much work. So, as businesses evolve, you don't want to just be trading just your time for money in the long term. But certainly starting out, that's where I was at. And one of the best things I did was joining a networking group with a whole bunch of different professions in the room and exceptional business leaders. So kind of learnt from them by observation in a lot of ways and
Mm-hmm.
having coffees and discussions. I don't think any of those things you would ever learn. I mean, I didn't study business, so I don't know what you learn in if you formally qualified and trained and all of that. But I think the observation and learning from mentors effectively was the best thing I could do.
Yeah, and I mean, bootstrapping forces a discipline you can't replicate in a classroom, right?
Yeah, for sure. There's nothing like having the stress of figuring out, where the next piece of income is going to come from to get things moving, and you just find a way. I think it's
Yeah.
exciting and terrifying. It's kind of like a roller coaster ride. We do it, we know it's going to be terrifying, but we love it. We love the journey. So
Yeah.
that's just how some of us are wired, I think. You're obviously running a whole bunch of different companies and very successful. So you know better than I probably in a whole lot of these things.
I bootstrapped as well. I also did not go to business school. I took some courses like later on, but yeah, I
Yeah,
just got in the trenches and figured I'm still figuring it out.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
talk about you a little bit more. Looking
Sure.
back at building Uplift 360 from scratch, what was
Yeah.
one mistake that became a defining lesson for how you do business today?
Well, there's a lot of horror stories. I can share one. So early on, well, not at the very beginning of the business, but when I'd had a small team with me, I started more as a freelancer, so it was just me, and then
Mm-hmm.
eventually built out a team. And at this point in time, I had a lead developer with me. I had a little team, And the lead developer, I could see he was getting quite kind of bored with the work. It is fairly repetitive. We've got standard operating procedures. Everyone must follow the standard procedures. So it can be repetitive and a little bit boring, I suppose. And I could sense he was not that happy with the work. So a different opportunity came across my desk. It was for a website. We'd never done anything like it before, a dating website. So it was a number of years ago
Mm,
before the apps and so on were around. And so I thought, man, this is an interesting project. It's not what we do. I have no idea how to do it. I'll ask the lead developer if he's got any ideas. And he said, yeah, sure. I know exactly how to do that. I can do the proposal for you. I said, well, that's brilliant. I've got no idea. Do the proposal. I'll present it. Hopefully we win it. And the thinking was this would be engaging for him, so it would keep him on the team because he was brilliant. And so we did that, won the project, and a couple of weeks into the project, he quit the job anyway. So all of a sudden, I had this massive job, no idea how to deliver on the promises that we made, and what it meant. It was a few months of work, solid work. It just meant that I was staying up all night and early mornings and figuring it out myself. And so the lesson from that was not to deviate too far out of the lane, out of your own lane.
mm-hmm.
So to figure out what you're really great at. And yes, sometimes you'll stretch yourself a little bit, but there's got to be
Mm,
some form of parameters within the framework in which you work. So really was aware, okay, we really need to stick to our niche, stick to our lane, do what we do best. They're the happiest clients. The lesson cost quite a lot in terms of we
mm,
delivered. The client had no idea of the pain and anguish in my life at that time. But it meant all other projects were put on pause. We just could
yeah,
not take on anything else. So we lost a lot of money based on that, just simply because of the workflow dried up and got through
yeah,
that time and learnt the hard way not to take on projects for the wrong reasons. And it certainly
yeah.
was the wrong reasons.
For sure. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what happens when you have a small team, right? You sort of rely
yeah,
on one person heavily, and if
yeah,
that person leaves, you're kind of screwed. I've gone through that too.
yeah, I know. And it's the
Yeah.
problem with a business that leans upon expertise, skill sets that you can't easily replace. So
Yeah.
that's a huge challenge in any industry that's selling expertise in a field.
Yeah, you always I feel like you always have to have a backup plan for when
Yeah,
these types of things come up. And if you have a backup plan and that doesn't work, you need a second backup plan and a third backup plan.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. It's always and with a small team, if one person's even sick for a period of time, and I've had that a couple of times, one more extensive than the others. It really throws things out. And of
Yeah.
course, you need to support that person through a horrific time in their lives. But also, it could be a massive, if you're a really micro team, it throws, a quarter of your workforce might be out
Yeah.
sick all of a sudden, which is massive. So you can't cover those things as easily. So you've got to have ways in which you can deal with that kind of problem that arises.
For sure. You've spent years helping builders and trades. Why is trust so critical in those industries, and how can any founder build trust at scale?
It's definitely something that's eroded over time, and probably for number of reasons, trust is an issue. Trades and construction, a lot of construction businesses went out of business here in Australia, and I know, having done a lot of podcasts globally with different places, it's kind of seems to be a common thing where businesses have really struggled in the trades and construction field. And so when a business goes out of business, that leaves a whole lot of people in the lurch. And so there's trust erosion. So you can imagine if you're building your dream family home with a builder, it's you're halfway through the project and all of a sudden the builder goes out of business. You've got
Mm,
to try and find someone else to pick that up. So all of these factors, and then cost of building materials, that's was what caused a lot of businesses to go out of business. But then there's some that needed to all of a sudden uh, charge more and find ways to do that, and so the end customer doesn't exactly know all of the reasons why, but
Mm-hmm.
all they know is what they thought they were getting for what price didn't happen, and so the trust is eroded. That's one part of it. So building a highly reputable business and making that really clear,
Mm-hmm.
anything that can signal your quality reputation and that you're going to be around for the long term to at least finish the job, super
Yeah.
important. It is hard to do it at scale, but the thing to remember is every single person that's a touch point in your business is possibly speaking about your business. And founders don't often know what's being said behind closed doors and in, at the pub or whatever it is. The trades, construction, everybody talks. Everyone knows the people, the businesses.
Mm.
Everybody has an understanding of who's who, who's a quality provider. And so the way to scale the trust, it's invisible oftentimes, but you've got to do the right things and look after people and own up to your mistakes and share your message. You've got to be found, chosen, trusted, all of these things.
Yeah, I love what you said about like owning up to your mistakes because I mean, I
Yeah,
think like if it's you we make mistakes, right? But owning up to
yeah,
it, like do you
mm,
find that that just it builds a reputation, hey, this person they admitted they messed up, they were honest about it, and then you can
yeah.
keep rebuilding the trust?
Absolutely. And it's been proven that because we do digital marketing, so we understand that
Mhm.
space really well, but it's been proven statistically that people trust a less than 5-star Google review, for example. If it's all 5-star, the people think that something might be a little bit fraudulent in it. It's not
Mm.
necessarily true, but that's just the way the human mind works. We all know that people are not perfect. And so there's no harm in owning the mistakes in which we make. Or the other aspect of that is to not worry too much when you get one bad review, when you've got hundreds of positive reviews. There's just some people who will never be happy with anything and they're just complaining for illegitimate reasons sometimes. I get calls sometimes from great businesses that we support and they'll say something along the lines of, we just got this Google review, can you remove it? That's difficult. And then it's usually the case that they never worked with the company or they've got the wrong business or just something that was not really worth leaving a Google review for. But I always
Yeah.
tell them not to worry too much about that one in in 100 positive reviews. It doesn't hurt. In fact, it might even help with the data and the stats to suggest a less than five-star review
Mhm.
seems to be more believable.
You talk a lot about authenticity and human connection. How can founders stand out when AI content is everywhere and every website sounds the same?
Yeah, it's a massive problem and that's what's eroding trust as well in terms of content and marketing.
Mm,
It's so easy at a few clicks of a button or even to speak to your device to produce content. And that means people realize it might not necessarily have been created by a real person and they don't even know if anyone's actually read it half the time. So people might be publishing content and but it's all generic because it's just pulling in information all far and wide from online and collating it into what's perceived to be a new piece.
mm,
But it's not
mhm.
really new. It's just a collation of other people's ideas. So there's no reason for that to surface in Google or large language models because it's the same as everybody. You've really got to think about what sets you apart, what genuinely makes you unique. And sometimes what sets you apart and makes you unique is a little bit uh, polarizing to some degree. Some
Mhm.
people will be drawn to you, some people will be repelled by your position, but that's a more powerful place to be than just being generic and bland.
Yeah.
Have something worthwhile to share, and then you can
Mhm.
syndicate that message far and wide, quickly and
Yeah.
easily through all the tools that are available with AI and so on.
Well, this is your space, and I want to ask you a question. I was watching the other day something that was saying how in 2026 the digital marketing and social media trends are going to change, and it's going to be more around not necessarily authenticity, but around like real life scenarios. So the messy, the middle, and people actually showing
Yeah.
those types of things on videos. Do you think that's a trend that's actually going to be true in 2026?
I believe so, and that's the way. I mean, I was kind of foreseeing that a year ago, and you'll see a lot of my videos and so on published, and the things I talk about through podcasts and
Mm,
so on. They're not really very polished at all. They're just genuine, authentic. They're real, and I share a lot of different scenarios and stories of personal life that sometimes people might not. And I share
mm,
mistakes all the time because I really do believe. I mean, if we look at TikTok, for example, the TikToks that seem to perform the best uh, never really all that polished. They're kind of off the
yeah,
cuff, but they're authentic and real. And somebody, it's bizarre sometimes what seems to take off. Someone might
yeah.
invest a whole bunch of time in getting something really refined and polished, but it barely is seen by anybody. So I was sort of kind of foreseeing that. I'm not sure who was mentioning it recently for next or this year, as this is published in 2026. Um, but yeah, I think that's the case. It's people don't need to worry too much about getting things flawless, but
Yeah.
getting
Well,
having something worthwhile sharing.
yeah, and because also like videos now they can be done by AI. So people are like, they want the messy, the rough cuts, the unedited stuff so that they actually know it's real. That makes a lot of sense. But
Yeah.
tell me, what's your framework for helping clients stop wasting money online and start seeing real measurable growth?
Yeah, so it really the first fun thing we do with new clients is we have a conversation. We call it like the shadow conversation. So it's something that I picked up thinking about psychology and just for fun, looking at those ideas and thought, hey, this is something apply that we can apply to business. So every industry has its dark and light side. So, but we
Mm-hmm.
find people talk about the negative aspects of an industry far more easily. So it's almost like a venting session where we'll be with the founder over Zoom typically and just get them to vent and spill their guts on everything that they think is wrong with the industry and what everybody else is doing not right, and even talking about their competitors. Now, this is a behind closed doors conversation. It's not nothing you would ever share publicly, but once we do that, it's a big purge session. But we can then come from the light aspect and the positive angle and think, okay, this is all the negative stuff. This is the darkness, the shadow. What's the opposite of these things? And they're the core compelling differences that are in the company. Usually, a founder led business is a reflection of the founder. So I'd like to have that conversation with the founder if we can, if it's a business of that size. And that's where it starts. So getting some of those key points of difference, and then we can use that through their blog, and we use AI to produce a lot of the written content, but we can get really established style guides. So they're voicing
Mm-hmm.
documents. So everything's aligned. So it's how they would say it. And the message is really super aligned to what they want to share. Getting these points of distinction, and then we can publish that through a blog that can be repurposed into social media. Once you've got a
Mm-hmm.
core, something worthwhile sharing, it's easier to syndicate that far and wide and be found in all the right places. So yeah, that's what it takes.
So what's changed the most in how you run your business and what stayed true no matter how much tech evolves?
It's changing rapidly, the whole industry, and a lot of industries are. Obviously, we're a tech-led uh, business. Most of marketing these days is online, and we make
Yeah.
websites and so on. And I mean, even with vibe coding, which is promising to be able to design websites. Now, it's not at the level in which we would be satisfied to use it just yet. Maybe one day it will be. But what we've done this far with the AI revolution is to change our standard operating procedures quite dramatically. It was a
Mm-hmm.
massive overhaul and the software stack in which we use. So the outcome for the client perspective, it's the same, but it's the streamlined process to get it done has been really dramatic and made us far more profitable as well. So everything takes a little bit less time. And it's allowed me to spend more time with clients and really understand them better and help support them in new ways as well. So yeah, overhauling the standard operating procedures felt like a really cumbersome task and
Yeah.
overwhelming, but doing it was so worth it. It's just taking the time to invest back into the business and think about how we could adjust and change.
Yeah.
If we don't change, we will be vulnerable to being wiped out. That's the
Yeah, I
reality
mean,
for a lot of businesses. Yeah.
yeah, technology changes so quickly now. You have to keep up, or yeah, you
Uh,
become a dinosaur in like 6 months.
yeah. Yeah. Anything technology wise, and because
Yeah.
you're involved in custom software and so on as well. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the nature in which things are changing so fast. I mean, I know another guy who does some software, and he's saying he's able to roll out changes so much faster than ever before, but that's created another set of headaches because um, the support team, things have changed so that people are ringing up to say, hey, where do we do blah, blah, blah. And the
Yeah.
interface has changed because things are changing so fast. New headaches, but new opportunities as well.
Yeah, of course, that's how the world runs, right? So tell
Yeah.
me, what habits or mindset shifts helped you stay grounded and resilient in such fast-paced changing industry?
Yeah. Well, a few years ago now, I found myself in a really flat spot. And so I had to go and see a psychologist. At one point, I was crying under my desk like a baby. Things were just overwhelming. At that point, it was kind of weird. So at that worst moment of crisis, I had a
Mm,
really important meeting in 5 minutes. So pulled myself together, got on the Zoom call, and actually closed that sale. But I just didn't turn the lights on so that people couldn't see how red my eyes were on that Zoom call.
yeah.
But I realized, hey, I got to get some help, and went to a psychologist, and they were great in helping me finding out ways to regulate myself a little bit.
Mm,
So she was really quite progressive and encouraged me to do breath work, which was awesome. And I got involved in cold plunges and sauna. I've got a sauna
mm,
blanket. So
hmm.
all these little things. Business is tough and it's can be stressful, and uh, it depends on the your personality. But it's hard for me to wind down at the end of the day. So
Yeah,
finding little mechanisms that are healthy to wind down instead of drinking too much
right.
was really powerful. And these are my health improved dramatically as a consequence of doing some of these things,
Hmm.
and business flourished as well. So if you look after
Yeah.
yourself, your own body and your health in general, your business will
Hmm.
perform at a greater level. It was amazing how it transformed.
So, if you don't mind me asking, like, what led you to that point of, being hiding underneath your desk and crying, being stressed out? What was some of the things that led you to that point? Was it just burnout?
No. So separation. It was the early days of separation, and so I
Mm,
found out some things in my marriage which I felt were irredeemable. So it was a really difficult thing for me to grasp because I've been
mm,
married 20 years, nearly 20 years to the day, and so finding out all this stuff all of a sudden, and then from one day sleeping in the family home, and the next day sleeping under the desk at the office.
yeah.
It was pretty challenging. So um, yeah, there was a whole lot of things that I needed to work through at that time. Really difficult.
But these are the human things that you go through, right? And to your point, like business doesn't stop and you have
Yeah,
to keep going. But I'm glad you found a way to cope and find your way back and not be under that desk.
yeah, yeah. The curious thing was most people who go through a really difficult family breakdown like that, their businesses will really diminish over that time
Hmm.
because it's so stressful and they've got to invest so much on other things. But for me, it was kind of the opposite. I had immediately had a higher um, business, more sales being done, and I
Mm,
realized I was able to compartmentalize things really well. But I realize that's a strength and a weakness. So if you're able to compartmentalize aspects of business and switch things off and on
mm,
as you
hmm.
need to, that's great at times, but it's no way to live a healthy and happy life for the long term. So I realized I got to adjust some things for the long term because it's going to burn me out completely if I stay on that path of compartmentalization.
Well, we're coming up on time, but
Yeah,
before we wrap up, I have one last question for you. And I
sure.
know we've sort of talked about some lessons learned, but I want to talk about like a failure that you're now grateful for, a major failure. And what did it teach you that you carry into your work today?
Yeah, wow. There's failures galore. That thing about the taking on the project outside the niche was a big one. And even the first person I hired was probably one of the biggest failures. I I had no idea how to lead people or run a business, and so I've got to take responsibility for that. But I hired the wrong person as well. I
Mm,
hired a friend because I thought that was going to make things easier. I thought that meant that she'd look after me in my naivety in running a business, but it turned out to be the exact opposite. So it was at the time where we were having a son being born, and so I was taking a couple of weeks off. And during that time, she thought she would start her own business and and take a handful of clients with her, which was
oh,
which was really a hard lesson. Obviously, the friendship didn't was the end of the friendship, but um, I realized that I've got to be a little bit more sophisticated in getting, proper
mm,
contracts in place and to protect myself a little bit and just to prepare for the unexpected a little bit better.
yeah,
Building a bit more resilience into, the structures in which that I worked. And yeah,
yeah,
that's one of these things. As I said, I take responsibility for being a terrible leader and boss, and these things you sometimes you learn the hard way. You don't know what you don't know till you make a mistake
yeah.
sometimes.
And it goes to the point that you and I, well, you made like right when we started talking, which was bootstrapping. You don't know what you don't know, and you sort of
Yeah.
learn along the way, which is a perfect example of what you just said. You know, you didn't know, you thought it was going to be good, but you learned your lesson, and now you know how to hire, and you know you need contracts in place, so you know how to protect yourself from that failure. So it was a
Yeah.
failure, but it was a good one too.
Yeah. Well, that's true of nearly every failure. I mean, failure
Yeah.
is very rarely fatal. It doesn't ever wipe you out completely. It's
Mm-hmm.
just some things you learned and you make some changes and you move forward. It's
Yeah.
there's the perceived risk and fear of failure is just stops so many people before they even get
Yeah.
started. But I mean, the lessons you learn, the progress you make, you've just got to get started. I think that's the thing people fall down the most in.
For sure. Well, Wes, thank you so much for joining me today. I learned a lot from you, and I know our listeners will too. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Sonia. It's been brilliant.
Awesome. I want to thank Wes for joining me today. Here's a takeaway I'm sitting with. Your business can't be built on vibes and dreams. It has to be built on lane and processes. Wes's story is a reminder that the almost broke me moments usually come from two places: taking work you can't reliably deliver and building a team structure that depends on one person. The job of a CEO is to remove single points of failure so your life doesn't have to collapse for the company to survive. My advice: write down your lane in one sentence. List your top 3 points of failure: people, processes, or promises, and put one single protection in place for each, starting with clear scope, documentation, SOPs, and contracts that assume the unexpected. And that's a wrap. Thank you for joining me on this journey of learning and growth. If this episode resonated with you, take a moment to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with someone who's building through a challenge right now. You can also connect with us on social media and be part of a community that believes resilience is the real advantage. Remember, growth isn't linear, success isn't guaranteed, and setbacks are part of the process. What matters is how you execute. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, keep chasing your dreams with tenacity.